Where the idea of trading from the gut come from?
Well, trading from the gut is a little bit different. I mean, I intentionally used a title that was maybe a little bit inflammatory, but the idea is that gut instinct isn't something that's not rational. It's or irrational. It is very much a part of what our brain is very good at doing, which is the gathering of lots of disparate information and processing it into something.
Right.
And we miss out if we don't use both our left hemisphere and our right hemisphere of our brains while we're trading, because if we just want to be entirely analytical and we don't look for patterns and we don't try and analyze charts by using our intuition, then we're likely to miss out on trading ideas, for example, that are very lucrative.
Right.
And sometimes I think there's information in subtle details that we maybe don't pick up on our rational side. But if we trust our gut a little bit, maybe we'll investigate those ideas and we'll find out that something deeper is there, and eventually we'll come to understand it on a rational basis.
So give me an example of how you've used that in recent times. Put that into play in an idea you had.
Well, I was going to say, telling my at that point future father-in-law to get out of his entire retirement account and go to cash was a risky move for me, because if the market had kept going up, I would have been looked upon as a fool.
Mm-hmm.
But my gut told me that there was something really dangerous about the stock market, and that it was more dangerous than it wasn't just a simple matter of maybe he could lose a little bit of money, that it was actually worth sticking my neck out for.
Do you think it was a combination of, as you said, fervor, people that you knew around you, kind of beating the drum, charts failing a little bit at the top there in October of 2007, housing being what it was, a credit situation, kind of a composite, nothing concrete, one thing, but you kind of put that together, that 20 years of history, and you go, something feels weird here.
Yeah, and I think that's often the case. George Soros talks about how he trades sometimes and he gets a backache when he should adjust his positions. And I think that's just his brain's way of surfacing something that his right brain has noticed, but that he can't quite put a finger on. And there's a lot of examples in where our brain works very, very well and processes information, but the way the right brain works, it can't necessarily explain itself. It's a lot like neural networks in computers. Right. Neural networks are very good at pattern recognition, but you can't figure out why they know what they know. And that's how our right brain works. It can't explain why, for example, a particular situation seems kind of shady, or you should worry about danger in a particular situation. But often there's a rational reason if you actually could sit back and filter the data. But the right brain, our intuition, takes over when there's either too much information or not enough time to process that information.
Right.
So in the case of trading, there's often a lot of information, and if we don't use our intuition at all, then I think we're missing out on some opportunities. Now, that's not to say that I believe that somebody should trading should just be about buy because you think it's going up, or shooting from the hip.
I think a lot would argue that's what most retail does. Oh, I got a gut feeling, like you said, you're not trying to be crass with the title of the book, and I think most retail gets that gut pang, they want to sell at the bottom and buy at the top. So I understand where you're coming from, but that's something that and in many ways, Malcolm Gladwell's Blink is much what you're talking about. I mean, your first thought, your first intuition, when I was playing baseball, is it going to be a curveball or a fastball based on, again, pattern recognition? If I've batted against this guy before, what am I looking for when he comes down, with the pitch? There's guys on base. This guy's known for a fastball. I'm thinking that. He's thinking that. He's going to throw a fastball. He throws a curveball. Again, whatever your first intuition, again, I find that a lot of ways you can tap into that and use that regardless. And a lot of times as a fader, I see that especially in charts where you know that everybody's playing for the breakout. I know that everybody's playing for it. or I know that everybody's sitting around a pivot point or a support or a resistance line. So I will do the opposite of those as they probe that, knowing that I'll be out if it goes against me a little bit here, long or short. But a lot of times, because everybody's pushing on that number, intuition tells me it's the hard thing to do, but I got to fade them until they prove it to me, until they show me in Missouri.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. It's there's a big difference between intuition and gut intuition and just sort of wild ass guessing.
Right.
So, I don't advocate the latter, but the former is very useful, and especially if you have some experience. Experienced traders have educated intuitions, and they can make analysis very quickly.
Right.
The other thing your intuition is very good at, if you train it well, is you can look at a chart pattern and determine something very quickly. So you can filter through a lot of information. You can look at hundreds of charts very quickly if you've trained your perception system by visually looking for particular types of trading scenarios.
I agree.
Rather than coming up with some fixed, if this high is lower than this, it's sort of algorithmic approach, which is more your left brain. And if you look at it and say, well, is it a strong support and resistance situation? Is it an ascending channel? All of those things in certain scenarios can be very successful inputs to your trading.
Right.